Hi, Philly Key Sports, Fight TV, here with Fernandez, the renowned Philadelphia boxing writer, the Philadelphia Daily News, Sweet Science, here at the legendary Blue Horizons press conference. Bernard, what do you think of Friday's fights coming up?
It's really interesting. I think these two Israeli kids have interesting stories, both in the military. You know, they're both, up to their eyeballs with the Middle East situation. But apart from that, they're both making their mark in the ring, and they've made that mark to a large extent in Philadelphia, their home away from home, in America, from a boxing standpoint. Ron Nakash is 16-0, 12 knockouts. He probably is only a couple of victories away from moving into the rankings and possibly into contention for world championship. And if and when that happens, I mean, I'm sure the people at the Blue Horizons will point to him as being one of their alumni. Elad Shamil is maybe not quite as advanced at that point, but he could be. And interesting guys with interesting stories, and not too bad as fighters.
Okay. We just witnessed Philly boxing history. John DeSanto presents the Briscoe Award to Elad Shamil for his great fight. Take it back a little bit. How long have you been covering the Philly boxing scene?
Since November of 1987, when I succeeded Elmer Smith on the beat.
Can you just off the top of your head, can you reel off some of the greatest fights you got to cover live here in the Philadelphia area?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, dozens. Probably the most memorable two fights that I ever covered, any time, any place, actually happened within about 4 or 5 weeks of one another in 1990. One was Tyson Douglas in Tokyo. It's hard to believe that our paper actually had enough money to send somebody to Tokyo to cover a prize fight, but I was there, and for the biggest upset in boxing history, possibly in all sports history, and also for the long count controversy that followed it, while the Inquirer was trying to cover it by telephone from halfway around the world. So that was a great moment. And then some weeks after that, I was in Las Vegas for the Mildred Taylor Julio Cesar Chavez fight. The controversy ended with 2 seconds remaining, and there are a lot of people in Philadelphia that are still very piqued.
What's your opinion on that stoppage? Do you think it should have or should not have been stopped?
Well, Mildred Taylor was going to win the fight. Now, there's no question that he was hurt. I have no problems with the stoppage from the standpoint that he was hurt. The problem that I have was that Chavez knew that the red light was flashing in the referee's face. He had to know there was only a second or two left. And Chavez, who was sent to the neutral corner, was trying to come around him, trying to run in and get in one last shot. At that point, if procedure was followed, Richard Steele turns around and says, go back to the neutral corner and the fight's over. Mildred Taylor wins the fight. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that his career would have been any better. He sustained a lot of damage in that fight, and he would have sustained the damage whether or not the fight was stopped or not. But he would have had that victory over Chavez. He would have been the first person to beat Julio Cesar Chavez, and that was taken away from him, and I think it's a shame.
Okay. You touched on a point. You said, back in 1990, the Daily News, had money to send you out to Tokyo. I think the state of boxing, that's a far cry from what it is today. How do you see, the journalism aspect of it from your end changing how it is today?
Well, the economy is not the greatest, and that's the same whether it's for newspapers or for, Joe Blow on the street. There used to be a time when my executive sports editor, who did not claim to be very knowledgeable about sports, would say, let me know where you're going to be. In other words, if I thought a fight needed to be covered, we covered it. If I said we need to go to these 5 fights at various points around the country and around the world, we went to all 5 fights. Then eventually got to a point that we were going to 4 out of those 5 fights. Then maybe 3. Right now it might be 2. I have to pick my spots a little bit more and ask them how they allocate their money for boxing, because from the available pool, which keeps shrinking, the Eagles are always going to get theirs, the Phillies are always going to get theirs, the Sixers, the Flyers. So, boxing is one of those sports, along with colleges and tennis and golf. Well, maybe not so much golf because Tiger Woods is still around, but you have to pick your spots to ask for money to make road trips. And it's not like it used to be, but then what the heck is?
Do you think there's talent out there right now to maybe, I don't want to say get it back to where it once was, but that warrants at least even a little bit of exposure in the papers these days?
Well, the thing is, just recently, not that everybody saw the Matagua-Rogers fight, and because but it was a terrific prize fight.
Yes, it was.
Adamek and Cunningham was a terrific prize fight. And the thing is that people are looking for that. They're looking for that kind of fight, from the super fights. They're looking. They wanted that from De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather. They wanted it from De La Hoya and Pacquiao. They got a great performance. They get two performances like that. They want that in the super fights because that would bring the interest back. But there are great fights that are happening out there that not everybody's seeing. But I will say this, because I was at the Spectrum for that 104, 103 Kentucky loss to Duke when Christian Laettner, which a lot of people say the greatest college basketball game of all time, and who knows, maybe it was. But I can say that a terrific, great, wonderful prize fight. You don't always know where they're going to turn up. Well, you can if Israel Vasquez and Said Marquez. There always are great fights, but when you get one, there's nothing better and there's nothing more compelling in sports. And if you see one of those, you're hooked. You may not like being hooked. You may try to wiggle off the hook, but you're hooked. I just wish that some more of those fights got greater exposure because then boxing would be back.
I think that's a great way to end it, everybody. That's Bernard Fernandez, Philadelphia Daily News, The Sweet Science. Much appreciated. Thanks for your time, Bernard.